So good afternoon and welcome to the graduation of the class of 2012. We should be grateful if everyone will now stand and remain standing until after the invocation. Thank you.
Coddrington School, the International School of Barbados, celebrates today a significant milestone in its growth and development. When I and the other graduating students become the first ever graduates of this school, we are both proud and humble to be in this unique situation. Coddrington is a school where many faiths come together and where people of all faiths and no faith feel comfortable, as the school's values are universal human values which defend the teachings of no faith and can be rejoiced in by all. We have a unity in our diversity which teaches us that the things that unite us as human beings are greater than the things that divide us. In this spirit, I would ask that you kindly be upstanding for 1 minute of silent reflection and, for those among us who are people of faith, a silent prayer for the success of the day and the success of the graduating students in their future lives and careers.
Okay, thank you very much. Please sit down. Well, I'd just like to first welcome you all to our first Coddrington IB graduation ceremony. And I'd just like to say you all look stunning. You agree? First, I'd just welcome our dignitaries, Mr. and Mrs. McKinney, Dr. Roger Peel, Mr. Cole. Thank you very much for coming along, and we look forward to hearing your speech later, Damien. Okay. Right, I'll just address you first. I know we warned you that the IB would be tough. In your wildest imagination, did you think it was going to be that tough? The good thing is, you know, that from speaking to past students over the years, if you did the IB properly, the diploma, you will never do anything educationally as difficult. It's a very difficult thing to do, and I'm very pleased I was there all the time just to help you along the way. I know you're a bit shell-shocked after your exam experience, but I hope you've had a little bit of time to relax. And be able to just reflect on your experience as IB students, diploma students. You probably haven't had enough time to reflect, but I want you to try and think in the future about what you might think it was like to be an IB student at Coddrington. You know, when you're 20, 30, 35, you will look back at this time. And I just want to share an experience with you, or a bit of my experience, to say perhaps what you might think about the IB in the future. And I'm going to go back in time here for me. And when I was a younger teacher, right, then my first overseas posting or teaching job, it was a small little island, a small school in a little island in the Atlantic, in Gran Canaria. It's the other side. I was appointed as a geography teacher there. And my first important task was to bring through the first cohort of IB students at that school. You know, sounds similar, all this. I had my first group of IB students. There were 6 students. I had 1 Spanish, 2 Koreans, one Scandinavian lad. They always seem to follow the sun. We also had a Japanese girl and an Indian student. And 18 years on from that, I have a similar diverse group of students. History, in a way, is repeating itself, and strangely enough, the same comments I hear from my students of 18 years ago are exactly the same ones I have from these lot. For example, there's no way I can do my homework on time. I've got a TOK essay to do. I've got language A. There's no way. It's exactly the same things. So certain things do not change. And I said to these lot, very much similar to what I said to my first group of students, that, well, tough. That's life. You have to deal with it. The IB is a way of developing certain skills of time management, and being able to do a lot of different things at once. You may not appreciate it now, but over time, you certainly will appreciate the experience that you've had from taking the IB at this school. Over the years, I've tried to keep in touch with some of my ex-students, and in the past week, I got in touch with one of my first students I ever taught at IB. He's now getting on a bit. And I asked him, I said, just can you go and tell me what you remember about the IB, what it's like to be an IB student, just to see if there's any kind of differences. He's a guy called Tino Lopez. He's 35 now. He's a very clever young lad. He is very good at work avoidance. He is a good talker, and he was always the last person to hand in any work. I can't think of anyone here that fits that similar bill. Anyway, he, as per normally, even I did ask him a while ago, he got back to me just yesterday, because I said I need it for today. And he said this is what he wrote. He said, "It was a fantastic experience as well as very well-rounded. It was also glamorous in that kind of indie kind of way. The school helped too. It was an intimate affair with a very diverse community. It certainly gave me a wide range of skills and prompted a lot of critical thought. With hindsight, I'll say that I was very fortunate to have done it." And the next bit, he just said, "I also thought you were a great teacher, and I'm sure the rest of the class would agree." Honestly, I didn't just put that in. Right, anyway. So that hopefully will be you in the future. When you're 35, you'll look back and think about your IB experience in Codrington as something you're fortunate to have gone through. At this school, you have been blessed with a combination of great teachers, small class sizes, a very diverse group, and in the International Baccalaureate, a perfect educational system for the world that we live in now, of information overload and complex global interactions. You're going out into the outside world with a range of skills that have equipped you for today's world. And you will also be part of a community of IB students. And trust me, wherever you go in the world and you meet an IB student, you will have this affinity always with them because of shared knowledge that you've been through that. And you'll be able to say, it was tough, wasn't it? And yes, only they will know. Right. This small group of DP students has not only had to deal with the rigors of the IB program, but they have been our guinea pigs throughout the time they've been here. In fact, I'm not going to use the term guinea pigs. I think that it's more like special forces, really. They go in, they clear out all the problems on the way before giving the signal for others to follow and benefit from the work they've done. They haven't had any group of students before them who could say, well, you know what, you really ought to get your extended essay done on time. You don't leave things to the last minute. They haven't had that kind of advice. They've had to, well, try and listen to us at times, but they've had to find their own way. And the DP1 students, I'm sure, have benefited hugely from seeing the way that these guys have been working recently. And as a group, as a school, this group of students will always have a special place in our heart for showing us the way forward. Okay. It is a great pleasure to see you here and to celebrate all the work you've put in over the years to achieve your Codrington diploma. So on behalf of myself, the staff, the faculty, the board and fellow students, I would like to wish you all the best in the future and know that you will always be remembered here very fondly. Thank you. I'd like to invite Penny up now to speak on behalf of the students.
By the mentioning of names Walmart, like the hugely successful warehouse, or Bacardi, the hugely popular brand of rum, one hardly suspects that there's an entrepreneur who is behind their success and fame. Mr. Damien McKinney, seated in the front, who is our honorable guest speaker of our graduation, is behind their success. He is the living role model for anyone who wishes to succeed in aspects of business in order to help others reach their goals and achieve triumph. In 2011, he was awarded the Stevie Award in the category of Executive of the Year for his astounding achievement in the foundation of his global business, McKinney Rogers, which aims to aid businesses with the tools and experiences needed to succeed in today's world. He shows a complete talent for his business as he has led the firm to 50% year-by-year growth, which is quite amazing. So, quote from his online website: "We live in a time of uncertainty, a time of unstable economies, an increasingly competitive marketplace, and a political unrest. These are the facts of business life, but they are not excuses for our failure." With these words, one can easily interpret the idea that Mr. McKinney is not one to waste time, and one who believes that one cannot blame the world on one's own failure. By applying military concepts to his code of conduct within his business, he forms a principled basis for companies to start up with. He has had a huge success, and this has led him to where he is today, successful in most aspects of his life with a true commitment to his work. We are honored to have someone like Mr. McKinney come to us today to guide us onward in our lives. He has achieved what many can only dream of: to be at the center of business life, charity work, the Barbados Entrepreneur Foundation, and politics. It's certainly an amazing opportunity for me and the other graduates to be able to listen and learn from Mr. McKinney's wise words. For taking the time to attend our graduation, having just returned from his business trip to the UK, the Far East, and Australia, we are privileged to know that he's willing to take time out of his schedule to speak to us today. I would like to invite Mr. Damien McKinney to the stage.
Thank you. Appreciate that. You need to join our sales force. That was excellent. Headmaster, board, trustees, ladies and gentlemen, and above all, class of 2012. That must feel very, very special. I feel humbled to have been, and indeed honoured, to be asked this afternoon to speak, to say a few words, to set this, what is an amazing end to a chapter and the start of another chapter, and it's truly special. Bit like Piers, I was reflecting on what it must have felt like 33 years ago when I sat where you're sat. We were dressed slightly differently in those days. One thing I had was lots of hair. Long, curly, dark hair. I had long pointed collars, big wide lapels, bell-bottom trousers, tie knots. We used to have them up here. So you have big fat knot. I think we listened to ABBA, Black Sabbath, Bob Marley, and I think the Sex Pistols. The only thing I avoided was the safety pins in the ear. And what was amazing was that we thought we were really cool, and everybody else was really old and boring. And you're probably thinking the same thing as you sit there. What was amazing is we had things like log tables. And I remember being presented with the slide rule, and then one day somebody said, there's this new calculator, it's this Sinclair calculator. And we were really excited. We thought we were at the cutting edge. And then when I was invited to go to university and have a look around, and they showed us their mainframe computer system, which was a Honeywell, which was larger than the whole of this tent. Little did we know that here we are 33 years later, and you have it all in your hand, with your little iPhone, your iPads. The ability to, rather than going to the, I think, Encyclopedia Britannica and all 50 volumes, you now go on the web and you have Wikipedia and Google and the social networking sites of Facebook and Twitter, etc., which is amazing in terms of what you have. The thing I think, my sort of so what for saying all of those things is that I also lived in a world where the Cold War was going on. There was always this spectre of the metal-munching Mongolian sweeping down from the east and gobbling us all up at any time. There were revolutions going on around the world. There were strikes. There was recession. There was all the uncertainty that frankly exists today. But I still sat there where you're sat, and I was really excited. I was really looking forward to the future. And I think that what prepared me and what made me excited was a frame of mind. And I was listening to Piers, your comments about the IB system, and I know it's constantly being told it's hard. So let's put that aside. I think the key is it's the frame of mind. It creates an attitude, which is what life is all about. And I think you have to thank 4 groups of people. I certainly in that time thanked these 4 groups of people. And I've never ever forgotten the role they played. The first group are your parents and family. It never astounds me how often people say, well, of course it's easy. Parents just send you to school, somehow money grows on trees, you just happen to get there and away you go. They forget that in fact the sacrifices that most of our parents go through, and I certainly in my case had a mother who literally worked, as far as I was concerned, every hour God gave her, and she had this absolute belief that even though I could have had a free education, she believed that the greatest gift that she could give me was my education. And I have never forgotten what she did for me in terms of that setup. The second group of people you have to thank are indeed the teachers, represented here and in this room, because they also have a massive part to play. And in terms of, and I was interested by Piers, your comment about being tough as well, because sometimes we sugarcoat life. I don't sugarcoat it. It is what it is. But the way in which the teachers interact and prepare you, I think, is also very, very important. There's a third group of people, and then probably not in the room today. And they're benefactors. They're people who provide scholarships and otherwise. I know 3 of you have been given scholarships, and congratulations as you go forward. But they are a very special group of people. And indeed, I had a scholarship for my last couple of years. And to this day, I don't know who they are. But pay forward is a really important thing that you can also take forward. It's something very special. And the fourth group are your friends around you, because they will stay with you for life. So please, if you remember nothing else today as we walk away from today and you look back, is please, please continue to thank these very special people for the chance that they've given you in life and this setup as you go forward. Secondly, I'd like to say a little bit about this country. I'm an outsider. I've been here for 4 years, indeed my wife and family have been here for 4 years. I believe that I am the luckiest person in the world. I'm lucky in that I had that amazing start in life. I'm lucky that I live in this country, and indeed we've embraced it as our home. And when we were doing our the restoration on the house, people kept saying, well, you can take the easy route out, and we kept saying we need to live here for at least 50 years in this house, and because he refers to it as forever. And actually, it's really interesting. If you say to yourself that you're going to do something forever, again, it's a very different mindset, because you apply yourself to saying, I'm not going to take shortcuts. I'm not going to put any band-aids on this. I'm going to do it properly. And whilst we feel the storms of recession and the macro environment, etc., in this country, I do believe that we're on the cusp of something very special. We have a vision, and I'm part of that vision, and I believe it to my very core, that in 2020, you will be part of the architects and the drivers of a country that will be the #1 entrepreneurial hub in the world. I have literally, as you said, I've just come back from Australia. I was in Japan before that. I've seen many, many countries. We live on an amazing island that has every right to achieve that. Are we going to have to make some changes? Are we going to have to think and operate differently? Yes. And again, I think that what IB has provided you with, and I think we all need to sit up and take notice of, and we need to spend more time talking about, is an ability to think differently in terms of creativity and innovation and otherwise. And some of the small-mindedness that goes on, and I know why, and it's in the view of, well, we need to protect and we need to look after our people. Well, the one thing I would say, that why would we not want to provide the greatest opportunities for our young people and other people by inviting the best in the world to join up with the best in this country to create world-class standards. So frankly, the immigration laws must, and I know will, and are being thought about in terms of changing. You know, we mustn't restrict, we must open. And I think you're not just guinea pigs. I think you're part of a revolution. You're part of the spring that will occur in this country. Final few words, if I may, and addressed to you in particular, is some words of advice. And what I will say is you will get lots and lots of advice as you go forward. The danger is that you think that you know it all. I stand in front of you with many, many scars. And I've made some silly mistakes. But I've also been very lucky that there's been moments where people have given me some advice, and actually, either at that moment or later on, I listened. And it goes right back to joining the Royal Marines, and before I did, I asked my grandfather, who was, as he referred to himself, a citizen soldier, who had to join up to fight wars that, frankly, he didn't want to participate in. But he gave 3 pieces of advice at the time, and I remember they were very special. And I give you those because it's in the sense of what you're embarking on. He said the first thing is that as you look forward, there will be times when you will be more terrified than you could ever believe. But it's unacceptable to show fear. Now that in a world in which you're allowed to show emotion and it's okay to cry and all sort of things, so maybe this is a bit of heresy now. Of course, you can feel emotion about things, but at the end of the day, you also have to lead. You have to show the way, and therefore you have to control that fear, and you have to come up with solutions. The second is, he said, and of course he was using a military analogy, he said that when people start shooting at you, it's very frightening. And what happens is you want to lie down, and you want to be as small as you possibly can be. He said, and importantly, the people around you will want to lie down, because the last thing they want to be is hurt. He said, don't let them lie down, because if they lie down, they'll never get up again. And the whole point here is that momentum and progress is everything. If you stop momentum and you stop progress and you allow people to dig in, they will never move. So you have to go against the grain, and you have to keep going. And he said the third is, he said, it is your responsibility to always bring everybody back alive. It is unacceptable to be brave and play with other people's lives. You have to bring them all back. And for me, that's been really important, particularly in this recession, in this environment. It's very easy to say, I just need to survive myself. However, you have got to make sure that you look after your team, your people, and you bring them back so that they're successful. And if you do that, then you will have an amazing life. And if I can just finish on a few words. I said at the beginning that I'm a very, very lucky person. I am an incredibly lucky person, that I've had these breaks. I've got a lovely wife, lovely children, lovely home. I live in a lovely country. I work with some amazing people. And I read something yesterday, a little book. Somebody just thrust it into my hand and said, look, here's the latest, another business book. So I picked up this business book and I just flipped it open, as you do, and the quote in there was, only work with people you like. Only work with people you like. Now you'll find as you go through life, there'll be times when you'll be forced to work with people you don't like and you don't respect. My advice is move on. Now that is counter to what everybody says. And part of the reason for that is because I want to say a little bit about values. Knowing who you are and knowing your values is probably one of the strongest sort of guiding lights you could ever have. There are so many times in life, in my previous life as a Royal Marine, and I was involved in which were sort of special forces type activities, etc. around the world. You meet people, and I've met this in business as well, where people say, Damien, you don't understand. This is the way we do things around here. I know that you may think that that's not legal, but it's legal here. I know you think that's not ethical, but it's ethical here. I know you may think that that's contravening your values, but it's our values. I've had that on many occasions. You have a choice. You can either say, okay, I'll go along with it. And by the way, unfortunately, a very, very high percentage, over 50% of people do go along with it. You must never go along with it, ever. It is unacceptable. You have to say, that's fine. You do what you're going to do. That doesn't mean I'm going to accept it, and you must walk away. Your values and what you stand for in life are the most important thing, and you can never lose sight. And in fact, I went through a phase, I was doing quite a lot of anti-narcotics work, and one of my biggest concerns was that actually I'd be set up. I was never worried about being shot because fortunately most people can't shoot. One bit of advice, if somebody shoots at you, don't zigzag, you just increase their chance of being shot. But my worry was always being set up, and I remember speaking to my wife at the time. She said, "How do you feel about this?" And I said, "I'm okay, because if I end up in jail, at least I know why I'm there, because I was doing good." And all I'd ask you to do is that the worst jail you'll ever be is the jail in your head. So my final few words, if I may, and it's a complete opposite to the tough, is that you're embarking on an amazing adventure. And it is an amazing adventure. And seize the dream. And people talk about dreams. Take the dream, grab the dream and run with it. And you may need to change the course because honestly, serendipity and spontaneity and risk are really fun. They're exciting. Embrace them. Don't run away from them. But really look and suck every bit of goodness out of it. And if I can end with a quote by Henry Ford Beecher, who said, "The art of being happy is the power of extracting happiness from every common thing." So success and happiness lie in your hands. And I wish you the very, very best of luck and good fortune in the future. And I look forward, I'm sure as many others do, to actually following your progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Damien McKinney. We are now going to move on to a musical selection. The first will be the school song, which will be sung by a selected ensemble, including parents, children, former students, staff, and friends of the school. Then afterwards, there'll be a musical trio by 3 NYP4 students. But first, the school song.